All right, guys, we're going to get cranking here. So welcome to another Talent Champions Council Masterclass with another legend. And I'm going to talk about him in a second. Very, very quick housekeeping. Make sure that in your calendars, you've got the 22nd marked off because we've got a Hall of Famer, a two-time World Cup winner, a two-time gold medalist, Brandy Chastain coming on, and she's going to talk to us about team building. And Brandy is just one of my favorite people on the planet. She is amazing. And if you don't know who Brandy is, I would suggest that you go to Brandon's website, Athlete Direct, and you can buy some autographed pictures of Brandy before she comes on the 22nd. So for those of you who are new to the Talent Champions Council, the format, this is live, interactive with legends. So we do about 30 minutes. I'll have a couple questions for Brandon, and I want Brandon to kind of give his story. And then we'll do about 30 minutes of live Q&A. So if you have a question, just say you have a question in the chat. Don't actually put the question in the chat, and Kathy will tee you up and you can ask your question directly to Brandon Steiner. But I thought I'd start by letting you guys know that I typically don't get that nervous. But I remember the first podcast that I did, I think in a studio, was with Brandon. So first of all, Brandon's interviewing me. I'm in a studio. He has this cool brick wall that you sign, and I realized that I'm signing like next to Shaquille O'Neal and Mark Messier and other like unbelievable people that he's had on his podcast. And you talk about having imposter syndrome. Oh my God, that was a lot of fun, and that was a long time ago. But for those of you who don't know, and I'll let Brandon, take it from here, but he is a legendary entrepreneur. He's currently running 3 different businesses. What I love people that start a category or literally start an industry. And that's really what Brandon did years and years ago. He's a 3-time author, and I've read all 3 of his books. And without going into a ton of detail, I think this says it all. When you get endorsements, these are the endorsements on the back of Brandon's book. Derek Jeter, Eli Manning, Jeffrey Gittimore, Mariano Rivera, Yogi Berra, Lou Holtz, Magic Johnson, Gary Vaynerchuk, John Gordon. I mean, yay. Unbelievable. And Brandon wrote an incredible chapter in my first book, Standing O. So we are super pleased to have the man who bought Yankee Stadium join us today. So Brandon, welcome to the Talent Champions Council.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate everybody. I know there's a lot going on, so let's get to it and let's see if we can figure out a way to make this world a little bit better and figure out how we can get some growth and how maybe we can help some people.
So you have
by the way, I'm not with Steiner anymore.
Correct. Steiner Agency.
Collectible Exchange and the Steiner Agency, but Collectible Exchange is my new company. I've started that 2 years ago. So Steiner was great, and I've been there for 2 years, and not sure what's going on with that brand at this point, but it's hard because it's got your name.
I know.
But Collectible Exchange and is a really cool company that's kind of like an eBay where you can actually buy and sell. I wanted to do something for all the collectors out there, solve a problem that so many people have so much stuff. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what it's worth. And Collectible Exchange gives people that opportunity to put stuff up, sell it. We help people auction it and that sort of thing. So you'll see a lot of cool stuff, over 100,000 things. I never had more than 35,000 on Steiner. I have over 100,000 items on Collectible Exchange and growing like weeds. So we're very excited about this. We're going after eBay and doing it right. But anyway, let's talk about whatever you want to talk about, and hopefully I can shed some light on a few things.
Yeah, there's just so many different areas that we could go. I think one of the things that you wrote in Standing O that, stood out to me, and I've heard you speak about it before, is the two most important books in your life. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on those two most important books.
Well, what's interesting is we had this thing, and I always have this thing about two things, which is, one, if I say, I got one thing to talk to you about, it doesn't seem like a lot. One seems lonely. Three things, if I say I got three things, oh my God, it seems like it's too much. Two is the right, two's a couple, three's a crowd, one's lonely. So I have this whole thing around two things, and we had this whole thing around the office that, don't go to somebody with more than two things. So, when I talk about the two things, like two most important books in your life, your date book and your checkbook, where you spend your time and where you spend your money. And it's always good to go back and take a look and kind of see where your priorities are, because those are two of the more valuable assets, particularly your date book, where you spend your time and who you spend your time with. And how can you improve on that? Because I think right now we're all a little screwed up. We're all going through a keyword called transition. And transition is, there are pinnacle times in your life when you go through a change, and whether you like it or not, when you first went to college, when you graduated college, lived on your own, right, when you decided to get married, and when you had maybe a kid, moved into a house, first job, first promotion, first job where you had to manage people. Those are all transition points that are extremely stressful, even though a lot of those transitions are good transitions. I haven't talked about the transitions where somebody, close to you dies, you get fired from a job. I mean, there's a lot of different transitions, and it's really, you got to really be careful about your transitions. So where you spend your time, especially in this day and age now, where we're going back to the old normal, and the old normal is now feeling not normal, that we have to get up. We can't just be doing Zooms. And I think a lot of people are under a lot of anxiety and pressure right now, because they're trying to now have to get out and be accountable. Your parents want to see you, your friends want to see you. Maybe there's a vacation, and yet you kind of got used to, being able to work along a certain way, pretty much from your house, no traffic, nobody really breathing over your shoulder. And now, bosses are asking you to come back to work. So, your date book and how you manage your book is really, really important. When you look back and see where you've spent your money over the last year, I think you can learn a lot too, because, the last year definitely got us a lot more hyper-focused about what was important, what we really need to spend money on, what we need not to spend money on. So there's a whole blog, if you go to brandonsteiner.com, about two things, where I have a list of about 50 things, 50 of these two things, like, there is no reason to worry, by the way. There's only two things that can happen. You can plan for what's happening, and you can deal with what just happened. Those are like my two things about worry. I think, if you want to worry, go to a bar, get a drink. Worrying is a waste of time. But, if you're going to worry, worry about your plan for what's about to happen, or worry about dealing with what just happened. And then there's always a spiritual or a real solution for every problem you have, if you just get outside your bubble, which is really my concern right now in the time we live in. We've been much more in a bubble, less likely to share, whether it be at the gym or whether we're at the office, where you just have casual conversations about certain things that are going on, and you haven't been able to have those conversations. So a lot of stuff has been brewing. So for no other reason, getting out and just getting some conversation with friends and people that about stuff is going to be very helpful for your mindset, even though it may not help your bottom line. So I can't emphasize enough time management.
You are so resilient, and you're unafraid to go after big things. Where do you think that comes from, and how do you keep that and sustain that?
I mean, well, thank you. I mean, I have always been resilient. Part of it comes from, my childhood. I grew up in Brooklyn, extremely poor. And I'll tell a two-part story here. One starts when I was, in fifth grade. I got called to the front of the class. My teacher, I collected a bunch of money me to buy new clothes. And I asked him he knew I needed clothes. And so you're wearing the same pants for 3 weeks in a row. I was 10. So I went home. My mother said, oh, no, you're fine. It's no big deal. And I went back to my mom's room about 3 hours later, and I come to realize, because when you're a kid, you only know what you know. You don't really know what you are. And, I came to the conclusion that, we didn't have the necessary stuff, so I told my mother I was going to go out and get a job on Saturday. Now, if any of those of you that have a 10-year-old, imagine a 10-year-old getting up on his own, and Kings Highway is a long several-mile strip of stores. And I started from one end to the other. And I found Freddie the Fruit Man was my first job. And it was when I decided not to use my circumstances as an excuse. I think that everybody has a moment of time when you got to just say, hey, this was kind of an unfortunate situation, or this or that, whatever the adversity is. But at 10 years old, I just made a declaration that I would start taking care of myself. And I told my mother if I had some extra money, I would give it to her. And I started working. One of the things my mother always impressed upon me was that you're not poor. Our circumstances are poor. And I think it's really important to realize that sometimes really unfortunate, lousy things, when they happen to you, it doesn't mean that you're not as worthy and not as good as anyone else, but sometimes your circumstances suck. And you can't get confused about the two. And when you have a level of accountability, you can take basically your unfortunate circumstance and turn them into something positive. And that's, to me, I think, where the resilience comes from. I don't think it's a good idea to have a 10-year-old out there on the street by himself, nor could that work right now. But when I look back on it, like, shit, I've been working since I'm 10 years old. And I could tell you so many different stories about stuff that I did in the hustle that would just blow you away. That you knew there was something special going on with me, that I wasn't a normal kid. I wasn't. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was considered a little weird for such a high level of entrepreneurism, from handing out flyers and my scheming around the newspapers, delivering bagels and milk around the neighborhood. But the real turnaround for me was when I went to see my mom, and I told her I wanted a career change. She said, like, you're 13. Like, I said, yeah, but I've been working every day after school. I've been working Saturdays. It's really wearing me down. I want to play sports with my kids, with my friends and everything. And I just want to be with all the other kids. So I went and opened up a paper route. And on this paper route, there was a sign in the window in the store that I signed up. I had 29 dailies. Whoever opened up the most accounts would win a box of candy bars. And I'm like, shit, this is my moment. A box of candy bars was big. To bring that box of candy bars home would have been huge. So I'm hustling. I'm all over the neighborhood now. In Brooklyn, I have these apartment buildings. I'm figuring this is a no-brainer. I'm assuming everyone in this neighborhood needs the paper, and I'm just here to deliver the message. And after about a week, zero, nothing. I go home. I go, Mom, I don't know what to do. She's like, you got to be resilient, blah, blah, blah. So I go back and I knock on this older woman's door, and she's like, no, I don't want to get the paper delivered. She's well in her 70s. And I saw that the paper was she had the paper stacked up in her house. I said, you get the paper, you get the paper every day. Why not get it from me? It's 8 cents for me, 8 cents from the corner store. She says, yeah, but then I got to tip you. And the funny thing is, I go home and I said, Mom, we got to move out of this neighborhood. These people are so cheap. They don't even want to tip me. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to build this route. This is just terrible. She says, sit down. I'm going to tell you something once. I'm going to tell you once only. Stop selling. Huh? Stop selling. If you want to go and sell a product, provide a service, you have to differentiate yourself. You got to start serving and solving. What are you going to do for these people that they can't do for themselves? The definition of value is what you could do for someone that they can't do for themselves. I think, by the way, there's a really, really such an important term that we should be using so much more in business, which is value. What value are you really providing, and how can you enhance the value? And when you enhance value, ultimately will enhance your result. So I go back out and, I go back to the woman and I knock on her door. It's like 10 o'clock at night. She's like, are you crazy? What's going on? What's wrong? I said, ma'am, I just need 2 minutes. I said, if there's a torrential downpour, snowstorm, blizzard, heat wave, a woman such as yourself shouldn't be outside, let alone going to get the paper. If I get you milk and bagels on Sunday and Wednesday, I'll bring the paper every morning, regardless of the weather. She says, that's so sweet. You do that for me? I say, I was concerned. And, sure enough, not only did she get the paper delivered, but she was the mayor of the neighborhood. She turned the 29 dailies into 199 dailies and 234 Sundays. And I was just rocking and rolling. And, soon after, I actually got into the bagel business because it was early on in the 70s when bagel stores were starting to really come in. So the guy in the bagel store hired me because he saw I was delivering so many milk and bagels. He taught me how to bake bagels and make bagels. And, the truth of the matter is, Scott, I've been telling that story for about 15 years. It's a true story, and it's actually a worthwhile story because it really is about, are you listening to your customers? Or you're just trying to sell them what you're trying to sell them, because people want to buy what they need, not necessarily is what you need to sell. So you got to listen to your customers, and you got to provide value, and you got to differentiate yourself. But what I was thinking about a few months ago is like, how do you really get in the mindset? How do you get in that mindset? Like, I think everyone on this call probably understands the importance of not just selling, but of creating value, service, solving problems. And since that day, I've always been a solution-based salesperson. Like, where's the problem? Running to problems and then trying to see what the solution is, because that's where the white space is. But the question is, how do you get in that mindset? Like, how do you get in the mindset to think about the value proposition, to think about this sort of thing? And this is where I think when I look back, I think this is like where it all started for me. And that is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you really want to do something that's unique and different, you have to turn up your empathy and compassion. And you probably say, well, what's that got to do with anything? But the definition of empathy is really putting yourself in another person's shoes, putting yourself in a common person's shoes. So if you want to increase your entrepreneurism, you need to increase your empathy, which is really putting yourself in other people's shoes. Common shoes is common sense. So coming up with common sense means you got to get out of your head, get out of your mindset, and get into the people you're trying to do business with mindset, and really really get inside of someone else's shoes, which is really the definition of empathy. When you turn it up and you really start looking at things through other people's eyes, not your own eyes, which is what we do with 90% of our time, only then will you see the white space and see the need and see the value and see the solutions that are needed to solve other people's problems. When I think about doing that as a 13-year-old, and I'd like to think that that's really where I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to turn up my empathy, even though I was trying to make a sale. I mean, make no mistake, would do anything and everything. But the thing is, everything and everything starts with compassion and empathy. So how do you turn up your empathy and compassion, get in the mindset so that you can understand what value proposition you need to increase, what solutions you need to solve, and how you can serve? Only best is when you put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yep.
So to be a resilient entrepreneur, you need to turn up the volume on empathy and compassion. And to be a solution-based salesperson, to be a solver, you really have to stop thinking about yourself. I always say, if you want to fill yourself, forget yourself. But it's hard for people because most people are in their own motion picture, their own screenplay, and 99% of the speaking lines and everything's about them. If you actually, you think about it, I think there's like 10,000 thoughts you have in a day or 20,000 thoughts you have in a day. And I would say that 99.9 of them is all about you. And if you can stop and turn up your empathy, turn up your compassion, turn up your ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, your entrepreneurism opportunities will blow up.
Yep.
So does that make sense? Hope that makes sense.
It absolutely does. I've learned so much from you through conversation, books, etc. I've got a trivia question for our group. We always like to have a little fun here. So the first person to answer this in the chat, I don't know, we'll give them a sign. We'll get you a signed book from Brandon or something.
Sure.
So Brandon mentioned solving problems, and he mentioned bagels. What is Brandon Steiner's claim to fame when it comes to bagels? You might even get 2 books for this if you get it.
Not the most relevant thing, but it just shows you how one thing does lead. Yeah, there you go, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Randy,
It's
that
just
was too
amazing how
quick.
one thing does lead to the other when you're being creative and when you always try to utilize your time to, to play in traffic, to screw around. And I think it's important to do that. I think that it's been kind of my blessing and my curse. Sometimes, I'm so externally distracted. And sometimes I do get overly consumed with everything else other than sometimes myself. So you try to have to find that balance. But when you're in an entrepreneurial race, you just got to get yourself, tuned into what's going on
Right.
outside of your own brain.
Brandon, tell us a little bit about, it sounds so audacious to buy Yankee Stadium. Like that just sounds crazy. When did you get that idea? And tell us a little bit about just what happened.
Well, first of all, that was probably one of the bigger projects I'd taken on, but I was partners with the Yankees. And when I had done my partnership deal with them back in 2004, and it was a pretty lengthy, the Yankee brand is second to none. And Randy Levine was a huge part of making this happen, along with Lon Trost and Brian Cashman and the Steinbrenners. Obviously, there was a lot of components because what I loved about the Yankees was the fans first. It was all about the fans. It wasn't a money grab. Like we were trying to put this thing together that would help fans be able to buy Yankee memorabilia and know that they were safe. So, we put this creative product line together, which ended up being a moneymaker. But the first and foremost with everything was trying to protect the fans, give the fans some value, which is really what I loved about the Yankees, because most people view, you see the Yankees like, oh, they're trying to make money, but they really are a fan first, product and service first, and everything else second. And they live by it and they breathe it, and I've learned so much from them. So we did this deal, and I turned to Randy and I said, by the way, if we ever sell the stadium, I got to be involved in that. He goes, it's too late to put that in the deal. We don't have no idea whether we're doing anything like that anyway. But I promise you, if we do something, obviously we'll do our best we can to do it with you. And sure enough, when the time came, they called me and showed me the new stadium and said, Brandon, we want to take down the old stadium. How do you see it? And then we went through all the trials and tribulations, and it was a huge undertaking. I saw the breakdown of the stadium, and I've broken down, Texas Stadium, the Meadowlands, the Garden. I've done a bunch. You talk about Yankee Stadium. The first thing, when people look at things like that, or, even doing Derek Jeter's collectibles for 20 years, or some of the big names, Ali, all these different names that I've done work with, it does shine. It is a bright light of like, wow, how cool is that? But I don't look at it that. I look at it like, that's a lot of responsibility and I don't want to screw it up. So it's very consuming. And I think that, when you're an entrepreneur, if you're listening out there, that, it's dark. It gets dark when you get into the deep end of it, because when you're taking what you're doing really seriously, it's not like party time. It's the Yankees. It's a stadium that meant a lot to a lot of people. And I wanted to make it right. And I wanted to do it right for the fans. And I had a 4-year plan. So it was really a hard process. It was a 4-year plan. It was a huge undertaking. It involved the players, the fans. It involved a lot of people that are diehard Yankee fans. There's nothing like that fan base. And what was great was, the most important thing is the P word, partnerships. And the partnerships that I was able to create with that stadium, starting with the Yankees, they believed in the plan. They respected it. A lot of teams, when they knock their stadium down, they just want to move on to the next thing. And I think that, if you want to have a history and respect of a brand, you have to respect the past. I think that in order to move forward on anything in your life, if you want to move forward in your life with something new, you need to put the past to bed, and you need to get some kind of recollection, some kind of reconciliation of what happened here. And I think it showed the fans. And I know it was a subtle thing because the new stadium's amazing, but it was a subtle thing. But the Yankees were like, yeah, this old stadium was amazing, and we're going to break it down very respectfully. But this new thing is really cool too. And I think it was the right approach. It was, sure, if you gave the Yankees a truth pill, they'd be like, I don't know. We went along with Steiner, but it's definitely a lot of work. But they went with it, and I'm grateful that we did. I'm grateful that they gave me the time and the patience to do what we did, because it wasn't a money grab by any stretch. It was more of a love affair with something that we were putting to rest. And we sold a lot of dirt, a lot of grass. We took the field up from the last field. We freeze dried it. The foul poles we cut up. We definitely set the tone for how other stadiums may or may not be taken apart. From the locker room, the carpet, making doormats and car mats. And we did so many different cool things with that stadium. I mean, my mind went a million directions. Partnered up with Reggie Jackson with a plaque out in the outfield. He would sign little pieces of the black and silver marker. We just did so many cool things with that stadium. And what I'm grateful for is I know hundreds of thousands of fans out there at least had a piece of that great memory, but it's nothing like the old stadium.
Yeah. No, it's your creativity is unbelievable. We're going to open it up for questions. So make sure that you let us know in the chat that you've got a question. Our first question, got a little bit of a surprise guest here, making a cameo. So we're going to go to Freedom Farms somewhere in New York. And the former director of performance for the New York Yankees, our good friend Dana Cavalier. Dana, what's up?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I heard Brandon was out today, so I had to stop by.
He's probably just checking to see what kind of shape I'm in and how healthy I am.
That's true. I was going to say, you look good, though. You're getting younger every day.
No, you're looking good, my friend. And thank you for everything. By the way, for any of you out there that don't know who Dana is, you need to get his book. He's a champion. He understands what it takes to every day get healthier, stay healthy, not only physically, but and the mindset. And he had a major impact about 10 years ago in helping me find my way from a health fitness standpoint. So I'm forever grateful. I just wish that he was here in Westchester to help me on a day-to-day, because he has that kind of impact. He's amazing.
Thanks, B. We both live on purpose now together.
Absolutely. Yeah, we went through both. I wrote my book with Dana, my last one anyway, and then his book we kind of wrote while we were working out, and those workouts were like exhausting between the physical and the mental.
Good. More the mental.
Yeah. It was good stuff though.
Cool. Scott, what do you have for us?
You guys have worked together for quite a while, and pretty intimately. What are your Brandon's a legend, but there's so many fascinating components, whether it's he's fearless, he's resilient, he's creative, he's just remarkable. What have you seen in working with him so closely over a long period of time?
I think that the one thing that I'll say is action taker. And, when you always try to figure out, for me, I started working with Brandon when I was younger than I am now. And I would always want to know how people get to where it is that they get. And very quickly I realized, Brandon goes from idea to action. He's not afraid to test quickly and fail quickly, or succeed, as well as a result of the testing. But, when you go from action to idea to action as quickly as he does, all those ideas, he moves right through them, because they either work or they don't work. They work or they don't work. But in all of those successes and failures, there's a constant elevation. So his curve is always going like this. And that's where I believe, in coaching a lot of people now, where many people get jammed up. They don't take the action that he takes. So Brandon Steiner equals high levels of action.
I say take action over anxiety every day, and then dream big, sample small, and fail quick. I can't believe, as aggressive a person as I've been over the years, how much of a sampler I am, and how I have the ability to slow down and hit the pause button when need be, just to check. Because now I know that I may be feeling it, and I'm at the table and I'm rolling those dice, but I'm like, something, Brandon, your idea may suck. And I'm not running scared, but I'm also running a little bit more of a, well, let's just try that. Let's not go into the deep end of the pool so quick. And I think one of the things with Dana was, I just, in working with him, is that I don't know if Dana realized, I think sometimes people don't realize how much knowledge and experience they actually have. You know, because you get so much in the middle of what you're doing, you forget that how much you know is so much and so valuable than what anyone else has. And I think that was like one of the big things with Dana. I was like, dude, there's nobody who probably has, besides who you've worked on, from the A-Rods to the Jeters to the Mariano Rivera's and every other great Yankee, but I can't believe how much knowledge you're sitting on. You got to share it. And I think that that was an important element with Dana, and I got the best of it. I got all that, which was a real blessing, frankly.
Yeah. Well, it's mutual. And I remember this when, you know, at Yankee Stadium, we started talking. I introduced myself for the first time. Next thing you know, I have a book being mailed to me. But he told me in that conversation, he goes, you know, listen, everybody that works with me, they leave a lot better than when they started. You know, and I will say that it's true, because there's thought that's prompted. So I prompt thought in people, you know, and I hope I gave that to you, but it's given back very much so, just in the ideas and working through things. And, you know, I'll share this. You know, I had these training facilities that I spent all this money building, and I thought they were going to be the most amazing thing in the world, and they weren't. And Brandon says, well, just close them. And that never hit my mind, that I could actually close. And again, through his journey, right, with the ice cream stores, he shared that, another experience. And he said, listen, I just kept going. I moved right past it. So it hurts, but we keep going.
I love it. Yeah. Life lessons learned. We could just talk, just the three of us all day. So Dana, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you making a cameo appearance for us. I much appreciated.
Well, this is going to be a good one. So make sure you guys ask Brandon as many questions as possible. He'll answer them all.
We are going next to Mark Moyer in New York City.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me. Hey, Brandon. Fabulous. So Brandon was a guest in my club room recently with Willie Randolph, and it was fantastic. But I just wanted to happen to let you know that sitting at my desk right here was a piece of the grass, the frozen grass. So yeah, I'm one of the people that has one of those. And one of my favorite things I got from Brandon and Steiner was a Derek Jeter ball signed to my 40th birthday, because this was a ball used on my 40th birthday. So that was pretty cool. So lots of great stuff. But and I would have to say that, Brandon, if you have a boat, you can name it after me, because I think I've spent enough money with you over the years that
Thank you, Mark.
Make your mark, right. But anyway, so the quick question is this: back in the day, you had back a few years ago, you used to have live events, and you'd bring in, whether it was, you know, Jeter, Mariano, et cetera, or if it was the Rangers. Would you ever do those again?
Yeah, I mean, I love them. I mean, to me, you know, my goal and what I'm trying to do at Collectible Exchange is I'm always just trying to get people closer to the game, help them, you know, because you get inspiration, motivation from meeting your idols and meeting people that you respect. And, you know, those conversations that we had with, you know, you could go YouTube me and you'll see, I mean, once in a while, I just Google search myself, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's got to be like 200-300 interviews with players on YouTube. And, you know, I think that, you know, I go back, I listen to some of that stuff, because while you're doing the interview, you don't always remember everything that, you know, you learned. And I think whenever you're talking to someone who's extraordinary at what they do, which is what really it's all about, if any of you out there are trying to do anything different, you're wasting your time. You should all be trying to be extraordinary at what you do. And when you get a chance to sit down with someone that is extraordinary, because making it to a major league level in any sport is a really, really slim chance that you can do that. So those Q&As to me are gold. And they're really all, I started with them just for my own curiosity. It was like, I just want to know the secret to these players' sauce and how they did it. And I mean, because anybody you talk to, whether they're the most incredible server, waiter, waitress, or garbage person or police officer, you know, when you're in somebody's company, it's just the best of what they do. It really is moving. And I think those Q&As with all the players were just that. And so Yes, I mean, I hope to bring those back, but I want to do them a little differently than what we had done. But there's some amazing, there's some really amazing chats we've had with some of the biggest names of all time that I hope the fans were able to, if not go to those, then at least watch on YouTube or watch on my Facebook, as I post them all the time.
Fantastic. We are going to Tampa. Jason, you're up with Brandon Steiner.
Hey, Brandon. Jason Eckhart, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure.
Whole half of my family, or more than half, are big Yankees fan. I'm a Philly guy myself, but so my question, you mentioned about your two most important books and the date book component, and you just touched on it, which I didn't get the third piece. So dream big, sample small. And what was the third piece there?
Fail quick.
There you go.
Dream big, sample small, fail quick.
So
it's in my third book. If you go to Collectible Exchange, you get the book for free. Just pay for the shipping.
there you go.
I love the Living on Purpose book, but most of the people read You Gotta Have Balls. That was my second book. And if you're young and just getting started in your career, the Business Playbook is gold as far as you want to start building your brand. It gives you not what to do, but it actually shows you how to do it. I think a lot of times when you speak with people like myself that have had a little success, I really tried in my communication not to tell you what to do, because nobody wants to be told what to do. I show you what I did. And a lot of people don't want to be that transparent. But even like Dana was mentioning earlier, like I showed him what I experienced. I showed him what I did. And I think it's really important in the learning process that to be able to be told what to do. But most people don't want it. So I show you what I did. I show you the idiot, stupid things I've done and how I went to correct it. Because that's a big part of brand building and growing, is just getting over your mistakes and disappointments quickly. And I show you how to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so just my question, which that ties into, is with valuing your time. Obviously, it's always a challenge for us. So that quote ties into it. But with you having success in so many areas, any other thoughts, tidbits you could share with us on how you do manage your time so effectively when you're pulled in so many directions, have so many options, businesses, et cetera?
There's a blog, or if you go to brandonsteiner.com, talks about your first 90 seconds. And I don't want to take up too much time on this, but I think everything starts in your first 90 seconds. The other 23 hours, 58 minutes, and 30 seconds is dictated by your first 90 seconds. And a long story short is you got to figure out what's important and who's important. I used to wake up in the morning. I didn't even know if my wife was alive. I had no idea what my kids were. I just wanted to get successful and get to the office. And it's delusional approach, because it's just really no way to live. I'm not a big work-life balance. I'm a respect life balance. You know what I mean? Like, you got to respect your health. You got to respect your faith. You got to respect your family. So what I try to do is in the first 90 seconds, think about who's important and what's important. If my wife's having a mammogram at 11, I want to call at 11:01 and see if she's okay. I know right now my wife is doing a charity event and feeding the hunger in Westchester. So when I go home tonight, I'll ask how that was. I caught that in my first 90 seconds. I know an employee is going through a struggle. I'm going to check in on that person. How many times do you go home at night and then oh man, I forgot you had a test today. Oh man, I forgot. So you can't have your most important thing not be your most important thing. And I think you got to get your MVP list together. MVP, your most valuable priority list, first thing before you even put your foot on the floor. Figure out who's important, what's important, and do what's important for who's important every day. And you can't compromise and negotiate on that part of it, because it's not that hard. I think it's also important not to have more than 3 priorities in a day. Figure out what your 3 most important things are and sprint to them. Most people, you talk about the ABCs, and most people run to the easier stuff, and then somehow the hardest stuff isn't gotten to. I see that particularly with a lot of younger people. But make sure when you get to your office, make sure you know what the 3 most important priorities are for that day. If you have more than 3 priorities, go to the bar, get drunk, or whatever it is. Just do something else, because you're not going to be productive. It's really hard to do more than 3 really important things in a day. And if you should get that done, then you'll figure out what the next 3 are. But try to minimize and be realistic. I know so many people that wake up in the morning. I'm kind of feeling that way lately myself. It's like, how the hell am I going to do everything I got to do today? And then you go through the day, and then at night you're going through, oh shit, man, all this stuff I forgot to do, I didn't do. So you're feeling overwhelmed at the beginning. You're feeling like you're a failure at the end of your day. It's not a good way to build up. So time management, capacity is a state of mind. And I think it's really about prioritization, your MVP list in the first 90 seconds, not having more than 3 priorities. So, go look at your to-do list and pick out the 3 most important priorities and nail that. And the other stuff you'll figure out how to do, but you got the most important stuff done. And it's really, really important, management by objective. And that is, getting those 3 most important things and doing what's important for who's important. Right away, know where your priorities are right away in the first 90 seconds of your day, and know who's important and do what's important for who's important every day. And I know there's a lot on a lot of people's plates, and I know it's a busy time, but it's never a time to forget what's important and who's important.
Love it. Now, there was a legend, though, that recently told me that 3 things were too many. So you said 3 priorities, so I might keep it to 2, but I get the message nonetheless. I get the message nonetheless. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you.
You got it.
We are staying in Florida and we're going to Steve Thomas.
Thanks, Scott. Brandon, this has been wonderful. A lot of good stuff to pour into our brain.
Thank you.
You've had so many successes, but when you have a failure or a setback, do you have anything specifically you do to get yourself back on track where you want to be?
Well, I think that failures, and if you read my, one of the reasons why I wrote Living on Purpose, because I felt like you got to have balls, was almost all my success and everything kind of fell into line. I have probably 200 reviews on that book at Amazon, for example, maybe it's even more, but one of the reviews said, Steiner, how convenient it was that everything went well. So in the Living on Purpose book, I was a lot more transparent about everything, particularly my failures. And here's the thing about failing. And for me, I expected fail. And there's a big problem for me early on, especially when I started really winning and started, finding some success. And I had failure all the way in my rearview mirror. I could barely even see it. And then all of a sudden, when you realize that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a big part of success. If you're going to want to win more, and this is the thing I want to just make sure everybody really understands. If you want to win bigger and win a lot more than you're doing now, you're going to fail a lot more. And sometimes that is a hard pill to swallow. It was for me. It almost wiped me out, because as I'm winning more, I didn't turn up the volume on realizing that I was going to lose a little bit more too. And those losing gets bigger because the winning gets bigger. So as you win bigger, expect to lose bigger. And that means that's a harder punch. It's a harder shot. It's a harder fall. And you have to prepare yourself for that if you want to continue on the path of winning really, really big. If you don't want to win really big, if you want to win small, then you'll fail small. So, listen, I'm not going to sit here and put any kind of whipped cream or cherry on failing, losing, because it sucks. I don't like losing at anything. I mean, I play basketball still to this day, and I lose, I still get pissed off. I'm still thinking about a shot I missed the other day. And, I'm 61. I'm like, I compete. You want to compete. I don't want to lose at anything. But I think that it's really, really important not to get addicted to the past, not get addicted to what happened. We tend to put a lot more emphasis on the losing more than we put the emphasis on the winning. And I think that gratitude comes in, think about it all again, when you go through your losing and you're reconciling, get the lessons learned from there. And then also have gratitude for all the stuff that you've won, because that was part of it too. Most people would just look at the losses. So when I'm going through a losing phase, I try to push my gratitude. I look at all the things I've won. Why would I think that I was going to pitch a shutout in business? Was I going to go 100-0? It's, that's what I used to tell my kids when I coached in Little League. Kid would give up like 2 runs in this first inning. I go, dude, there's no way they're winning this game 2-0. If you could settle down now, just do what you could do. We definitely got 3 or 4 runs in us to win this game. And that's how I look at it with business. Like, hey, I'm not going to pitch a shutout, but some of these 3 other ideas I'm working on are doing really, really well. I think the objective is to do a little bit more better, a little more wins than losses. Keep yourself in the plus column. And don't be afraid. Don't be SOS. And this is probably my most important point to answer this question for you. And that is, don't be stuck on stupid. There's nothing worse than losing other than sticking on something that just sucked It just, sometimes your idea just sucks, and don't get stuck on it. So that's why I talk about dreaming big, sample small and fail quick. Like I see women in relationships for 8 years, like this one woman or a guy in this relationship for 8 years. And I was hoping it was going to change. Like 8 years? And you wanted to marry this person? So I'm like, listen, I'm not here to put down how many years, whatever, but it seems like a long time, to hang. So I think that losing is a really important aspect, and usually leads to something better. However, don't be stuck on stupid, because that's sometimes even more painful because you hung in there way too long. And if you ask most business leaders, they're not so disappointed on the losing as much as how long they stuck on the losing and not make the adjustments.
Very interesting. Very
Thanks for the
interesting.
insight.
So you are a competitive guy. I heard you played a little one-on-one, I think, once against Michael Jordan. Is that true?
I played 4-on-4 with Michael. Got to go to his dream camp, which was fabulous. And, there's nothing like meeting Michael Jordan, let alone getting on a court with him. Sorry, I don't have the picture with me guarding him and playing against him, but it was fun. You want me to tell that story?
Yeah.
Well, on my 40th birthday, and this is a really important lesson, I think, for anybody out there. This is why I always talk about dreaming big. And I've been one of the things about me is that I'm an excessive daydreamer and dreamer. I mean, almost to a fault sometimes. If you ask people that grew up with me, they always thought there was something wrong with me because I was just always in a million other directions thinking about all kinds of stuff. And part of it was just high level of empathy. And part of it was I was just a big dreamer. So anyway, my wife walks in and says, I've got your 40th birthday gift for you. I'm going to go get it. It's your fantasy. Now, a lot of things go through a man's mind in his 40th birthday when your wife walks into the bedroom and says she's got her fantasy for me and she's going to go get it. I mean, there's a lot of things happening in my mind at that point. But so she walks in and a few minutes later gives me an envelope. It's to go to the Michael Jordan fantasy camp. And that was something I never thought we could afford. It was a lot of money. I was like, give this back. We can't do this. Like, it's not refundable. Get your ass in shape. Good. So it was in Vegas. The first year I got it, I went there. I probably wasn't in the best of shape, and I blew out my calf. It was the first time I'd ever been injured. And I was on the sideline, and Michael came over, which I thought he was going to come over and talk with me because maybe he felt bad. And instead he stepped on my other foot, went onto the court, played with my team, which I then started crying because I could have been playing with Michael Jordan, not only meeting him, I could be on the court playing with him, which I was like freaking. And I was just completely beside myself, didn't know what to do with myself. So I went home and I started thinking, I'm going to go back to the camp in better shape. I'm going to kick Michael Jordan's ass. I'm going to get on that court with him and demand that I play against him and beat him. I don't really know where I was going with that, but I just gave me the motivation, and I came up with this dream that I was going to go on the court and just kick his ass and everything else. And I'm working out, and I go back to the court and I see Michael a year later at the camp in Vegas. I said, Michael, I had a dream that I kicked your ass on the court. He says, it sounds more like a nightmare. I said, yeah, I got a feeling me and you are going to get into it over these next few days. So that night, my friend I was with went to, we were in a casino, and we were in a private room with him and Barkley. And there was only like 8 of us. How we ended up in this room, I have no idea. I really had no relationship with either one of them, but we were in this room, and it's like 1 a.m. I'm not a big gambler. I go over to Michael. I said, Michael, I'm going to kick your ass. You know that? He goes, well, we pick up in the morning, 7 a.m. Be there. I said, I'm going to be there. Don't bring that powder fairy blue stuff that you wear, that North Carolina stuff. I just trash talking.
Spoken like a true Syracuse grad.
I wake up in the morning about 6. I'm stretching for an hour, which is a little excessive. And then sure enough, we line up. I get on the court. Immediately I go, I got Michael. And the first play, I boxed Michael out. And I was definitely grabbing a lot of things that another man shouldn't be grabbing. I mean, we were like 5 feet off the court. I was boxing him out, and he probably just didn't even know what to do with me. And he's like, I go, Michael, it's not going to work out for you today. I got you. You're done. Trash talking him and everything else. So as soon as I got the ball, the first shot went in, and I don't think he's really guarding me much. And he's kind of, shaking his head. I said, Michael, why don't you play a little defense? So the next time I got the ball, I was looking to score immediately, no matter where I was. I got the ball, I go up and shoot it. And he wasn't even that close. At least it appeared. I don't know. All of a sudden, Spider-Man comes and, like, I don't know if that ball is still landed. He smacks it, boom. And it goes down like 3 courts down, and he's just kind of nodding his head like, I'm done with you. I've had enough of you. So we're playing and going through it, and it's a 7 game, and he's winning 6-5, and he's got the ball on the left-hand corner. He's maybe 15 feet from the basket, and he's got the ball, and I just want you all to understand that every bone in my body felt like I could guard him. He didn't seem that big to me. He seemed like I had a good handle on him. Everything about the situation felt like I had this under control up until this point. When he gets the ball and he now all of a sudden is, kind of putting it in my face, and I'm kind of not really sure what to do with myself at this point, other than thinking that maybe this is not going to work out for me. Michael makes one strategic mistake. He passes the ball to some short guy underneath the basket. He misses the layup. I run to the right elbow, 2 feet over to the right, 1 feet back, and get the ball from the guy rebounding it. Take the shot, goes right in, boom. Now we're at a tie score. Now I do the smart thing, and I'm trash talking the shit out of Michael. I'm like, I'm just nonstop talking, trash talking, everything. And the smartest thing is, I take the ball out and I pass the ball to the worst guy on the court, knowing he doesn't have the balls to shoot the ball on a tie score, and knowing he's going to give it right back to me. So I pass the ball to the guy in the corner. Now I'm on the top of the key above the elbow. I get the ball back, except Michael's coming over to try to block it. So I get the ball back, I turn, I square up, and his guy gets in the way. He can't get over to me to block the shot. I square up, boom, game over. Michael, get off the court now. You're done. You're toast. This is my court. Maybe you can have winners. Get the hell off it. At that point, the whole camp had kind of surrounded around. So there's a bunch of people that saw the scene. And don't get me wrong, I'm a mediocre player at best, and I've always been just a rec player. I mean, there's never any hopes that I was going to be any kind of athlete. I was really not that, good a player. Basketball was my favorite sport. I tried the best. I play hard, but I'm not like one of those athletes like, wow, he's really good. I mean, I'm an okay player. I could play with other people that are okay. But this moment, we went crazy. I'm not going to lie. And I hope how this story relates to all of you is that, when you dream big, you'd be surprised how powerful your mindset can be. Now, I'm sure if I played Michael 100 times, there's a very, very distinct good chance I could lose 100 times and maybe even more. However, when you dream big and when you think big and your soul knows that, hey, if not you, then who? Your mindset is nobody thinks you could do it. Nobody out there thinks you could take these shots and beat them. And I hit 3 out of 4 on that game. And, I just got hot and I was ready. And I think that it's really important for everyone there to not be afraid to dream big, think about the impossible, and go after it. And the worst come the worst, you'll be always better than where you were. I know that if I didn't beat him on that day, I died trying, and I worked the whole year my ass off to try to do it. And on that day, I believed in my heart and my soul that I could handle him. And maybe he didn't see me coming, although he generally did not let a lot of people win. In my knowledge, it wasn't like this guy who felt bad for you. This guy, his level of empathy was 0 when he got on a basketball court. Man was an assassin. One of the greatest competitors I've ever seen in my life. And I'm so grateful I've gone to his camp and met him, because he is amazing. And I learned a couple of valuable lessons there, which means every dog has his day. And if you dream big enough, you never know. And on that day, I turned a dream into a reality, and there's nobody's going to take that away from me, man. I'll tell this story to the day I die. And when I see Michael every now and then, wherever he is in a room, he'll walk in and sprint over, and I'll tell the people, everything Brandon Steiner is saying is a lie. It's not true. And so I know it bothers him, and I'm so grateful to be a little bit of a thorn in his side, to know that he let that get away. He's gonna have to deal with it. I'm trying to get him on tape to admit what down there. So that's still not there yet. But for anybody out there, I can't tell you how important the power of dreaming and pictualization is. Not only in sports, but in business, picturing getting the big account, picturing you having a staff of 50, even though you have 3 employees, picturing all these things. And it's been a real key to some of the things I've been able to do, is picturizing things and dreaming things out ahead.
Amazing. We've got one more question. Chad, quickly, in California, you are up.
Holy heck. I don't know. How do you follow up after that story?
Pretty epic.
As a former collegiate basketball player from LA, you would think I would be a Laker fan, but because of Jordan growing up, that's my number one idol. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Brandon. In addition to everything else, one thing that I wanted to ask here in closing is, a lot of what I focus on, a lot of what TCC is about is talent sustainability and creating strategies for talent. Of course, we would like everyone within our company to dream big, and everything you're preaching to us today, or reminding us today. But I'm curious, that's only for a small percentage of people, unfortunately. How do you get the other large percentage of people to buy in and to dream and to make them believe that they can accomplish great things that so many people just are average, run of the mill? Like, how do you get them to get to that next level? What have you found in your experiences?
Well, first of all, even just looking at your body language and explaining that explanation, you're you're a little bit on the wrong track, because somebody who's average isn't necessarily always a bad thing. One of the things I always get, well, I treat everybody fairly. No, you need to treat everybody equally. You need to treat everybody the way they need to be treated. And some employees, I kind of break it down like this, there are quarts, pints, and gallons. Not every employee is a gallon. So when you call as average, there's some people that are just capable of a pint-sized result in a particular area. And I think you have to kind of get your head on a swivel as a manager to appreciate that deliverance of a pint and know that's what you're getting. They're never going to dunk. They're never going to, they're never going to do this and do that. But if you put them in the corner and they're over for a three, they're going to hit it. And then there are other people that can do different things. So, and then every now and then you get a gallon, you get somebody who can do it all, somebody who could dream big, somebody who could drive your company. But that's not everybody. Some people are quarts, some people are pints, some people are half pints. And you could be a successful half pint as long as there's a manager, you know what to expect and know that's pretty much what you're going to get from a person. Now, if that's not enough to do the job that they're doing, then that's something you have to think about. But you are going to have some half pints and pints in your company on some of the jobs that you're actually dealing with. Now, as far as the culture is concerned, you can't have a half pint trying to be a pint, because they may not be capable of it. And the goal as a manager is to understand where those strengths and where those sizes of capabilities are with each of your employees and try to take them to the fullest. You don't want a half pint not being a full half pint. Your job as a manager to get that half, but the job may only be a half pint, so it may be a good fit. So I think that it's important to alter your expectations. I think expecting that everyone's going to come in and be gung-ho, want to work 100 hours a week and want to grow is probably not realistic, and also may not be what you need. There may be opportunities for a bunch of different things in your company, as long as people are highly motivated to be the best that they could be within the size that they're capable of being. I think that probably is acceptable. I think what happens is when you get to be a high-powered A-level personality executive, you want everybody to be A-powered, high-level energy. And it's probably unrealistic. Asking for a high level of energy is not realistic, but asking people to do above and beyond sometimes what they're remotely even capable of doing, it will only lead to disappointment and high turnover.
Phenomenal.
Awesome.
That could have been a mic drop. On behalf of everybody, Brandon, I cannot thank you enough. I know how precious your time is. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate everything that I get to learn from you. Thank you for joining us, and thanks again. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Check me out on LinkedIn. Just follow me or go to Collectible Exchange and pick up the book. And I appreciate all of you, and good luck. Keep dreaming big.
Thanks,
Thank
Brandon.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.